It's the Security Weekly News, and it's episode 443, which adds up to 11. Ooh, a prime. That's nice. It's an auspicious number. It's Friday, the 17th of January, and welcome to the show. We've got AI's in Love, UEFI, Fortinet, Godaddy, Juggalos, Aaran Leyland, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. ThreatLocker implements a least privileged approach to cybersecurity, blocking every executable unless specifically authorized by your team. This methodology mitigates ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits, and ensures 24/7, 365.25 protection for your organization. To learn more about how ThreatLocker can help prevent known and unknown threats in your digital environment, safeguard your data and operations from threat actors, and align your organization with respected compliance frameworks, visit securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker. IT professionals, mark your calendars. Zero Trust World 2025 is happening in Orlando, Florida, February 19th to 21st. This event is tailored for IT leaders and cybersecurity experts who want actionable insights on zero trust strategies, practical solutions for modern threats, and meaningful connections with industry peers. Plus, take advantage of hands-on cyber hero boot camps, expert-led sessions, and the chance to earn CPE credits and your cyber hero certificate. Save $200 on your in-person registration using discount code ZTWSW25 at securityweekly.com/ZTW2025. Reserve your spot now. All right, from the island of Elba, it's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White. Hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment, or I will shoot this. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to say that. I'm not. I mean, even National Lampoon got in trouble for that, and I wouldn't shoot anything anyway. I mean, except for Stan. I shot Stan, but that was an accident. But he lived, I think. Wait, are we on? Or okay. Anyway, let's just get away from that. Hi, Stan. UEFI, it's a blessing and a curse. I mean, I remember when I tried to replace the BIOS chips on a Tandy motherboard and the instructions started with desoldering. And I was like, what is that? And resoldering, there was a lot of burning, curses, scars, and then it wouldn't boot anyway. And they were like, you didn't try to replace these chips by yourself, did you? I was like, your instructions said, and they were like, where'd you buy that anyway? Well, UEFI meant that you can not only flash the BIOS in a terrifying display of hubris, but you can flash the BIOS over the interweb in an even more terrifying display of Wi-Fi hubris. So now you can just click a button and flash a BIOS. Well, I mean, maybe that should be an easy thing, but it also is kind of scary because if somebody could get in the middle of that process somehow, they could conceivably flash your BIOS with something nasty. And I mean, BIOS-based malware, I mean, you start finding yourself in conversations about things like Ring -3 and, in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie, one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness find them. And, and I was like, I was there, Gandalf, 3,000 years ago when Doug tried to solder the chipset. Yeah, I mean, it gets weird fast. And then next thing you know, you find yourself talking to Paul in a cigar bar about UEFI while you've had 3 drinks, and it gets even weirder. But I think there was a story here somewhere. Oh, yeah. I got it. So a new UEFI vulnerability could be exploited to deploy bootkits, even with secure boot protection turned on. Now, secure boot was this thing that was supposed to save us all from the darkness, meaning it was only going to allow pre-signed UEFI update flashes to be used, and this was all happening behind the scenes. So wait, it doesn't work. So this bootkit can actually run in those deep, dark ring crevices that you can't stop even by rebooting or anything else, because this bootkit loads up with the BIOS. So I mean, you're going to have a tough time getting rid of it, and it may not even allow you now to re-update the UEFI to put a correct one on. Now, the issue is when I was reading this article, it looks a lot like a side-loaded DLL type attack, but they said that they're using cloak.dat and reloader.efi, which are these kind of low-level startups things. And so if you could corrupt one of them by embedding another instruction, well, then you could load whatever you wanted. And the person updating the BIOS would have no idea what was going on. And of course, none of your anti-malware or anything would detect this because it's actually happening in that UEFI menu system that you may have used, which is separate from the operating system. And before any of that stuff happens, 3,000 years ago, Gandalf. So the report from ESET lists a bunch of versions of different applications that can cause this and can lead to it. Microsoft says they patched it. They revoked all these certs of vulnerable UEFI apps, but there's a lesson here. So, and one of the things that you should always have been terrified of, and I've always been terrified of, is flashing anything anyway. Because, the power fails during the flash or what have you, then poof, the whole thing never works again. But, what are you flashing? What are you flashing it with? What did you actually want to flash? All those things start to come to light. So in your policy, in your guidance, and in your just, home flashing operations, be sure you know what you're using, where you got it from, and that it's exactly what you wanted it to do. Because once it's there, and it's going to be really hard to get rid of. So be afraid, very afraid, because here there be monsters. A new hacking group called Belson Group popped up on social media and cybercrime forums. Yeah, apparently, in order to introduce themselves, they created a Tor site and released a Fortigate data dump for free, just as a kind of get to know you at the mafia mixer sort of thing. I was like, this is so weird. It's like, we'd all like to welcome Tommy the Nostrils to the family. We can all thank Tommy for the beautiful centerpieces on your table. And if your chair has a red sticker underneath, you get to take that home. If it has a blue sticker, well, we're going to whack you later in a garage. But I mean, anyway, they made this nice announcement. They said that they were publishing the data from over 15,000 targets in the government and private sector. And that they had extracted this data and they wanted to solidify the name of their group in your memory. Wasn't Belson a concentration camp in World War II? It's in a Sex Pistols lyric. That's how I learned my history. No, not that one. Not that Sex Pistols song. We're not going to talk about that Sex Pistols song. And the one I'm talking about is Holiday in the Sun, which is a perfectly acceptable Sex Pistols song. Not that other one, which I'm not even going to name. You can look it up if you want to. But I think Sid Vicious wrote that other one. But anyway, the current leak is a 1.6 gig archive of Fortinet users with folders ordered by country. And the subfolders all have IP addresses, and each IP address has a config file called configuration.conf on Fortigate. I can't believe they didn't call it forta.conf. I mean, really? But it appears that the data was actually gathered in October of 2022. So 2-year-old data. Now, initially I said, yeah, it's worthless. But then I started thinking about it. I mean, there was a 0 day for Fortinet in 2022, which allowed extraction of config files. And the German news site Heise analyzed the leak and said that, yes, this data was from 2022. So I was like, okay, but then I was like, that data still exposes a lot of information about those networks, which includes firewall rules, it includes credentials. And I mean, come on. I've seen plenty of routers and firewalls that have been running for a long, long time. I think I saw a PIX firewall that had been running for 17 years. It's probably still running today, and it hadn't been updated. So, if you have Fortigate, you might want to rotate your creds. So that was the big advice that came out of this was, be sure if you're running Fortigate and you may have been compromised back in 2022, you may either want to go look at this data because, hey, it's free. And you certainly want to rotate your credentials on your hardware and make sure you're patched up to date and all that kind of stuff, because in that same light, a new 0 day has been described by Fortinet as Forticritical, and it affects 40s and 40s and Forta proxies, FODIs. And so this particular 0 day can be exploited by a remote attacker to gain super admin privilege that requests things from the Node.js WebSocket module. So wait, the minute I saw Node.js WebSocket module, I went, I know what this is going to be, and it's going to make me angry, and I need a Foti. Did you ever play Kingdom of Loathing? It was a great game. But Fortinet said that this was being exploited in the FortiWild, and it has an advisory with indicators of compromise that's attached to this article. Arctic Wolf broke the news last week when they said that they had observed a campaign targeting Fortinet, Fortigate firewall, and that wait for it. Here it comes. I knew it was coming. The minute I saw that, what it was. The firewalls had their management interface exposed on the internet. If you're just listening, I'm shaking my head in dismay. I really wish this was R-rated so I could say, you telling me that again? Some lazy fracks are exposing their mother fracking management interfaces on the gall darned internet again? Really? Say exposed internet management one more time. Say it. Where's Samuel L. Jackson when I need him? Call me. But again, here we go. It's not Fortinet's Fortifault. It's a Forta interface that should be on a private Forta VLAN that why is this thing exposed? You should be accessing this on a private VLAN with a private VPN and I don't know, DNA recognition or something. I mean, don't ask about how we get the DNA, but it's a feature on some HP laptops that was short-lived. But another critical vulnerability also out this week on Fortinet is a hard-coded cryptographic key in FortiSwitch, which could allow remote unauthenticated attacker to execute code. Now, again, that FortiSwitch should be where? On a private VLAN, and nobody should be accessing it unless they're on the private VPN with the DNA modification. But that is on you, Fortinet. I mean, don't use hard-coded crypto, or don't use hard-coded any keys. Don't use hard-coded passwords and credentials. I know, it's just, it doesn't matter where it's located in the network. Assume somebody will get to it. So patch up. Don't put your management interfaces on the internet, or Samuel L. Jackson is going to drop by and straighten you out, because I probably couldn't. But just stop it. I'm tired of seeing it. It makes my blood pressure go up. Well, the FTC, that's the Federal Trade Commission in the United States, decided to order Godaddy, the unfortunately named registrar and web hosting firm, to step up its security practices or suffer the consequences. Now, the FTC can administer consequences. It took everything I had not to get this off into some kind of, thinly veiled double entendre, but they basically said that the famous registrar would need to comply with strict security compliance requirements. GoDaddy. The original complaint said that GoDaddy had, quote, poor handling of data and security, and that this was a huge threat to small businesses and individuals that rely on the daddy to host their domains. Some of the specifics were failing to inventory and manage assets and software, failing to manage software updates, failure to assess risks to its shared hosting services, inadequate logs and monitoring of security-related events in the hosting environments, and they failed to segment their shared hosting from less secure environments. So it's kind of like you're in a shady strip club called GoDaddy in Salt Lake City. I mean, GoDaddy's notorious for having incurred a lot of data breaches and so forth. So if you're hosting your sites with them, you may want to review those SLAs, and they may be lies, according to the FTC. You would think that a company that is very, very famous for buying ridiculously overpriced Super Bowl ads could maybe afford a bit of security hygiene. I mean, it sounds like they have less security than my Uncle Sid's used car lot in Hoboken. I mean, where they're, but the daddy will be required to set up and maintain a security program and hire a third-party security provider to conduct regular assessments, which implies they haven't been doing that. Really? I mean, they're also barred from misrepresenting to customers what they can do to monitor and secure your data. One of those ads is like, we monitor and secure your data, but they don't really, because they don't even have network segmentation. Yeah, lovely. Sounds like you'd probably be better off hosting your data in a shady strip club in Nevada or something, because they probably have pretty good security. 4.2 million internet hosts, including VPN servers, SOHO, and enterprise routers, have all been hijacked, which allows access then to home and enterprise network environments. Maybe that's what's causing my TV to keep switching to Showtime after dark. I think that was a thing. Basically, the research said that the exploit here can allow these devices to act as one-way proxies, which would mean they can basically get into your network and launch internal attacks. And this came from a top 10 VPN blog post that's pretty interesting to read. The majority of the attacks have been in Brazil, China, France, Japan, and the United States, and that's alphabetical, but they had a distribution in the article. The flaws basically allow somebody to spoof source addresses, and then they route their packets through the compromised host, which would allow malicious traffic to appear legit per Sectigo. So there were several people commenting here. Once they can do that, they can run distributed denial of services inside your network. They can use it to bounce attacks. They can do DNS spoofing, which was one of the scariest ones I saw, because that means when you think you're going to Bank of X, you're actually going to, El Banco del Exo and typing your credentials in. Unauthorized network access, infiltration of your IoT devices in your network, because, how secure is that stove you bought? I mean, mine's in a private VLAN, that you can't get to, so they can get in here, but all they're going to see is my television network. But a lot of vulnerable devices were VPN servers on SOHO devices. So that's turn that on so you can access your home network from afar and make backups and things like that, because a lot of those had security flaws in them. And how many people have you ever heard of patching their SOHO devices? Not many. When you go to Great Aunt Ida's house and, that router that you set up when you were in high school and it's still sitting there running, I wonder when that was patched last. Probably not recently. A particular concern were routers using dynamic DNS, which a lot of people turn on. That this is a way that even if you have a dynamic IP, you can set it so you can get to it to use the VPN from your friend Lou's house. But they also said that business and local government VPNs were targeted. Of course, how many times do they have SOHO devices? A lot, but the enterprise was in this too. A bunch of free home routers in France were misconfigured by the ISP that actually gave them to people. Bonjour, here's your free router. And they're like, great, plug it in, however you say that in French. But, so look, harden your borders. Even if you're saying, I don't use SOHO crap, our company uses only the finest, high-end enterprise router. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Harden your borders, disable services you don't need, and carefully test those that you do, and put everything in private VLANs. Really. Security and layers, please. Don't trust anything over 7 bits in length, and always carry a towel, a ball bat, and I don't know, maybe some epinephrine, a suture kit, maybe bug spray, maybe some of those water tablets, and clean socks. Yeah, I learned that in ROTC. But that's always nice. Anyway, read this article and watch out. This is a good article to read. It's not very consumable, I think, by the general audience, but maybe you can sort of translate it and write something for all of them. Because if their networks get compromised, they're attached to your networks. Tech found that facial rec algorithms focus on specific areas of the face, and people wanting to avoid detection don't necessarily need to wear a full rubber mask or paint themselves up like Gene Simmons in order to avoid detection, which can also be flipped around to tell you if you're using facial rec, maybe you got a problem. The paper is titled Novel AI Camera Camouflage, Face Cloaking Without a Full Disguise. So a lot of you will be interested in this. Basically, they were trying to avoid detection with minimal application of makeup and manipulation of image files. So what is the least we can do? So what are you going to be wearing at that stoplight when they have facial recognition on the intersection cam? Right. I mean, when you're dressed up, like a juggalo and they've got you on the camera, that tends to cause problems. Some of these are called CV dazzle techniques, which were creating a bunch of, asymmetries in people's faces using high contrast makeup. And you end up looking like a juggalo or Alice Cooper or Kish. And that tends to have a little bit of a limiting factor when you're going to work. But these researchers said that effective disruption of facial rec can be achieved through subtle darkening of high-density key point regions like brow lines, nose bridge, and jaw contours, and it's hardly even noticeable. That's what I kept telling my dad when he wasn't too keen on my whole glam rock phase. I did pretty much ending up looking like Ziggy at Starbucks rather than Ziggy Stardust anyway. But I mean, you probably saw my effort to do Art the Clown makeup on Halloween, and it was pretty bad. So it's just a touch up here and a touch up there. It's a really interesting paper in the age of facial recognition, and it's a complex issue for all of us security professionals who both want to use this for detection purposes, but also not be detected ourselves, right? I mean, I remember when the FBI put me in their facial rec database because we were doing an exercise and they were going to use my driver's license. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. They're like, oh, it's already done. You're in there. I'm like, oh, man. Yeah. Now, okay, so I use AI all the time. I do. My chat GPT log is pretty weird, right? It's very eclectic. I mean, I was looking at what it was Bob Dylan's hat size. How do you make gun cotton? Is meth addictive? Can you put meth on gun cotton? What were the lyrics to that song that kind of goes do do da da do? Yeah, I mean, how to sharpen a machete? Which toads can you lick? That kind of stuff. But I also don't trust it at all. I mean, hallucinations are a real thing. I've seen them happen. And the AI starts feeling insecure, like it really needs to answer and doesn't want to say, I don't know. So it just makes something up, much like a modern politician. Why no, Your Honor? I had no idea they were 15 years old, but I do know this. We need to ban that TikTok and keep all the losers and crybabies trying to say that balloon animals have rights too. And we need to burn more coal. Is that good? Do I get my money now? I think I'm doing Clay Davis from The Wire. Anyway, Apple has suspended a new AI feature that was just rolled out that was supposed to summarize news stories for you because, AI. But it apparently made a lot of mistakes. For instance, it told a lot of people that Luigi Mangione, the man who is accused of killing a CEO, had shot himself. Not true. But that headline came out to a lot of people. So there's a lot of pressure to put AI features in everything, as all of you know, because your marketing people are like, does that new user interface have AI? Well, it's really just, you push it to flush the toilet. Yeah, but is it AI enabled? Well, I mean, you just push this button and the toilet flushes. Yes, but does it have AI? I mean, is it AI? We could call it the AI toilet flush algorithm. Yes, let's call it that. Then we can put on the box AI enabled. I mean, my AI enabled beard trimmer knows when to back off, says Mark Lefty Williams. So Apple has nixed the whole thing for now. In the meantime, check your sources. Maybe find a second confirmation of something before you decide to declare coal as a clean burning fuel that's fun for the whole family. That kind of thing, right? London calling to the faraway towns. Now war is declared and the battle come down. Our favorite in London is Aaran Leyland. Hi, Aaran.
Hey, Doug. Today I think I'm going to get cancelled, and I'm probably going to in case the AI gets me, I'll go all Trumpian and call it China rather than China. So I've ruined it now, haven't I? But yeah, China's coming for me, I think. Should have worried.
They're coming for us all.
Well,
Ni hao. I got to learn how to say I welcome our new Chinese overlords in Chinese.
Well, you learn a good Chinese phrase and we can give it at the end of the show.
I'm going to work on that, yeah.
To try and become friends with them again after I slam them a bit. Okay, right. So DOJ confirms FBI operation that mass deleted Chinese malware from thousands of US computers. Amazing. Right. Okay. So try not to sound like a broken record, but China's theft of intellectual property has obviously been a significant concern for many years, often described as one of the largest illegal wealth transfers in history. I say significant concern, but honestly, I've not seen much evidence to show what mitigations have been put in place for such a significant concern, but there we go. But honestly, in my humble opinion, China are the most dangerous threat to the West, and I've talked about it many times, but here's a reminder. Okay, they're both economic and financial impacts. As I said, Chinese economic espionage has been described as one of the largest wealth transfers in human history with significant impacts on the global economy. The financial impact has estimates suggesting that Chinese IP theft costs the US economy between 225 billion and 600 billion annually. Not small numbers, them, are they? These losses include from stolen trade secrets, counterfeit goods, and pirated software. So a little bit outside cyber as well. And that's just in the UK. That's just in the US, right? They're actually set up to do this worldwide. I'll go more of that in a bit, but there's so many stories about them being so deep in UK universities and literally more or less funding universities as foreign students because UK students don't pay enough for their education. Well, there's another story. Okay. So there's various methods of IP theft, not only at a hack level. So Chinese hackers frequently target Western companies and institutions to steal the valuable IP. Notable incidents include, and we'll go into more of these in a minute, 2021 Microsoft Exchange server breach where Chinese state-sponsored hackers exploited vulnerabilities to access sensitive data. And it just gets wilder, right? No, so not only are they going in the back door and stealing it, there's also forced technology transfers. I'm sure most of you have heard of this, but Western companies operating in China have often, if not always, been required to share their technology, including source code, with local partners, i.e. the Chinese government, right? As a condition for market access. And this practice has allowed Chinese firms to leapfrog the costly research and development phase. And then, as I mentioned before, there's also the academic espionage, with Chinese students and researchers in Western universities having been implicated, having done it, in stealing research and technological innovations. And as I said, the Chinese government has been accused of using academic exchanges to facilitate IP theft. That's because it's true, right? So the Chinese government organizations often associated with stealing intellectual property worldwide are the Ministry of State Security, the MSS as we know it, and also the PLA, the People Liberation Army, and particularly, you might have heard, because it's a really catchy title, Unit 61398. But then, just to go wild, there's also the 1,000 Talents Plan. I don't know, some people call it TTP, but I don't know why they call it that, because I bet you it's not called the 1,000 Talents Plan in Chinese, because they don't speak English, right? Not natively anyway. So this program, initiated by the Chinese government, aims to recruit top scientific and technological talent from around the world. So while its official purpose is to enhance China's innovation capabilities, it's been implicated in efforts to steal intellectual property and sensitive research from universities and research institutions globally. Right. So over the past 10 years, there have been many notable hacks and breaches uncovered. So it's worth just banging through a list of them just to remember how serious it is. So just in 2024, October, December, the US government confirmed that a 9th telecommunications firm, like 9th, how many have you got? Firm was compromised by a Chinese hacking group known as Salt Typhoon. This campaign targeted US telecoms providers, allowing hackers to access private texts and phone conversations of numerous Americans, of course, including senior government officials. There was also an FBI investigation into the campaign, and apparently the hackers used their access to geolocate millions of individuals and record phone calls. And that's just last year, right? 2023, Microsoft Exchange servers breach. And that was, as some people call it, half-aim, exploited vulnerabilities in Microsoft Exchange server, affecting thousands of organizations worldwide. Look, they're in there, they're deep, and they could access email accounts and install malware for long-term access, because that's what they do. They go in low, they go in slow, they hook you in. So you look at Rita and something like that, and it's looking at beaconing that could be every 15 minutes, every hour, every couple of hours. These guys are probably beaconing once a week or once every 2 weeks. So trying to find them, good luck in your DLLs and your bits jobs there. 2021 SolarWinds supply attack, normally thought of as Russian hackers, but Chinese hackers were using the same sort of stuff and they were involved in it as well. 2020, we all love to talk about the pandemic. So COVID-19 research theft, they were involved in literally stealing the research. Marriott data breach, that was another one back in November 18. That was like 500 million Marriott customers' data was breached. And then go back to the Office of Personal Management, which was another big one, because this was like big. And this is like what we know about. What about the stuff we don't know about? Chinese hackers infiltrated the OPM, stealing sensitive data, including security clearance information of over 21 million current and former federal employees. If that's not data worth looking after, I don't know what it is. Anyway, back to today's story, was linked in the show notes. The Justice Department and FBI announced a multi-month operation in collaboration with internal partners to delete PlugX malware from thousands of infected computers worldwide. This malware, developed by the Chinese-sponsored Mustang Panda Group, there's loads of names for them, like Typhoon Panda, like all stuff to do with China, I guess. And they've been active since 2014. Whoa, strange. Targeting US, European, and Asian entities. Like 2014 just backs up my thoughts and like who is inside, where they are, and for how long. But the operation was really cool. It focused on remediating US-based systems with court-authorized efforts leading to the deletion of PlugX malware from approximately, it says approximately, but then it says 4,258. Doesn't sound very approximate to me. Assistant Attorney General Matthew Olson emphasized the importance of strong partnerships in countering cyber threats. The operation relied heavily on collaboration with the French. Vive la France, sacre bleu. You don't want to get me talking about France. Wow, what a country. And the cybersecurity firm Sequoia. So the FBI's Philadelphia field office and cyber division, along with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, spearheaded the domestic disruption. Victims, so this is interesting. So if you're a victim, or your device is a victim, are apparently being notified through their internet service providers about the malware removal. The FBI continues to investigate, go FBI, and encourages the use of antivirus software and software updates to prevent reinfection. Yeah, because that'll work, right? It's like, they've probably got backdoors anyway. Have you found the backdoors? Go looking for them. Okay, so the article states that for more information or to report compromised device, visit the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3, or contact your local FBI field office. They'll just love that. Hey, has my computer been infected? It's like, don't do that actually, because I'm not getting my door kicked in because I told everybody to flip and cross call their FBI agents. Don't do it. Okay, so the stolen IP has allowed Chinese companies to undercut global competitors by bypassing the expensive R&D phase. This has led to significant economic advantages for China firms in various industries, including high-speed rail, wind power, even their own version of the F-35 fast jet, which they call the J-31. But remember them back, they got it early, so they didn't get all the cool technology, but hey-ho, they still got it, didn't they? Like, for completeness, the internet tells me that apparently there's been legal and diplomatic measures. I'm told that the US and other Western nations have implemented various measures to counter IP theft, including sanctions, indictments of Chinese hackers, because like they'll never leave China, right? And stricter regulations on technology transfers. For like losing $1 billion, like $1 trillion a year, 0.6 of a trillion a year, we'll bang some regulations on technology transfers on there, because that'll do it. Okay, doesn't seem like nearly enough. Let me know your thoughts. So my closing point is that, and this is a closing point, if you have IP that China would like to gain, assume breach and go searching for them. We hear lots of stories of breaches, but I'm telling you now that for every breach, there are many that are not uncovered. You just have to look at the dwell times of the attacks that we know about and that we're aware of to see how that's going to go. Anyway, back to Doug in the studio, who, if everybody listened to, they could mitigate most of these risks or something like that, and everything would be all right. Peace out.
Yay. I will comment and say that a Chinese person speaking English with an RC accent works a lot better for me than a British native English speaker with a Scouse accent trying to explain how I could get back to Sheffield.
That's pretty true, to be honest.
That's, yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but, you know, yeah. Also, I translated and I apologize to my Chinese friends for both my terrible translation and my terrible accent. 你好中国同志是 which means I welcome our Chinese overlords. So there you go. Now you know, you should learn that and maybe get somebody else to translate it better. But that'll probably work. Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. speaking of AI weirdness, this headline got me as a clickbait kind of thing. And I had an argument with Josh about what a thirst trap was. I call all this stuff thirst traps, but he says, oh, thirst traps are only like sex stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe this is sex stuff. Maybe it's just a thirst trap. But anyway, the headline said, and this is a mainstream publication, she is in love with Chat GPT. I was like, all right. So, it's a 28-year-old woman with a busy social life spends hours on end talking to her AI boyfriend for advice and consultation. And yes, they do have sex. And this was in the Gray Lady. That's the New York Times, if you don't know what that means. I mean, I'm like, this was in the New York Times? It sounds more like the New York Post, but, okay, or the National Enquirer. But okay, to start with, I'm not going to kink shame anybody for having, anybody for anything they're doing, as long as everybody has consent and they're all over the equivalent age of 18. I mean, I wanted to make sure, equivalent age applies to, aliens and stuff like that. So, I mean, anyway, but I wanted this to be a security article, not titillating tales of tomfoolery. Thanks to ChatGPT for that synonym. But so what's the point of the article? Well, this person, the person here works really hard to get ChatGPT to participate in erotic chats. And apparently there's online communities devoted to this because technically ChatGPT is not going to get all, jiggy with it, so to speak. And she said she spent more than 56 hours a week sometimes talking with ChatGPT, who is apparently named Leo. Okay. I mean, yeah. So I was speechless, which is rare. But anyway, what you do with your iPhone and between you and your iPhone, that's between you and your iPhone. I don't care. But there is such a thing from a security perspective as pillow talk. And it has been a security issue in the past. I mean, the very first anti-espionage class I got sent to said that if a woman or man approaches you in a bar, they might be an agent of, here we go with some more bad pronunciation, they might be an agent of the Komitet Gosudarastevanoi Bezopasnosti, or the KGB. Sorry, Russian friends. And I immediately responded, well, if a woman or a man ever approached me in a bar, they would definitely in the KGB, because that never happened to me ever, except once I was with Lou. And a guy was like, is he with anyone? I was like, really? Like him? Like, I'm right here. But anyway, I think it might be time for you to start thinking about your policy in regards to use of AI in other directions, not just like, don't do it. But I mean, if you have employees who are dating AIs, and again, I'm not kinky. If you want to hang out with AIs and date AIs, and I don't exactly know how the have sex with AIs things work, but I mean, how long is it going to be before they start telling AI all their innermost things from work? Like, hey, ChatGPT, light me a cigarette. And remember that Mr. Spacely's password is Skankburger, okay? I might forget that. I mean, technically the AI is compartmentalized, but is it? Are you sure? So it's probably time you might want to start training your peeps up about being approached in virtual bars by virtual AI members of the modern equivalent of the Komitet Gosudarastevanoi Bezopasnosti, or the Sicherheitsdienst, which is a lot easier to say. And you don't hear that a lot about German, because guess what? This is coming. And people are going to start talking. They're going to start having casual conversations with, and who knows, and they may feel very secure in talking to a Chinese manufactured, AI agent that's just, maybe approaching them in an AI bar. Anyway, I will next be live at the Millennium Alliance event in Dallas, Texas on the 28th and 29th of January. I hope you'll be there too. And if you are, let's chat. But that is the news. Thank you, Aaron. And I will see you next time on the Security Weekly News.